You're watching Taste of Victory.
Welcome back, everybody. Today we got the most hyped deck in the format, and that is Alphamon Ouryuken. So this is a deck that did not end up seeing as much play as expected in Booster Set 8, but with this new support, it is so insane that it's kind of hard to ignore. X Anti-body is a deck like many others in the BT9 format that is aiming to OTK. Its plan is to build in the raising area and then come out with its Alphamon Ouryuken stack and unsuspend itself for game. Because of Alphamon Ouryuken's ability to send sources to the bottom of the deck and gain an equal amount of memory, it is able to not pass turn and potentially OTK off of its restands because of its inheritable effects. So it's a really powerful deck that comes out and does a lot in one turn. Now let's go ahead and see how we are building up towards that. First up, we got 4 Dorimon as our only egg. It has your turn inheritable. When an effect places a card underneath your stack, draw 1. This card is really easy to trigger and super important for consistency. After that, we got Dorumon. He is the old Dorumon. On play, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 card with X Anti-body in its traits, and 1 Kota among them to your hand, place the remaining at bottom. So it's really important as a searcher for our deck because we want to see our pieces, and it helps us grab our Tamers, which is always nice. Its inheritable is the same as Dorimon, except you gain 1 memory, which is important to help you not pass turn and make explosive plays. Also, it has X Anti-body in its traits, which is incredibly crucial for this deck. After that, we got Ryudamon. Exact same thing, except he searches for Yuji, and its inheritable is Decoy Black. You won't be making much use of this decoy, but once in a blue moon it'll be useful to stop destruction on something. You mainly just want him for more consistency because of more searching. After that, we got the new Dorumon. This one is introduced here in BT9. It is 3 to play, 2000 TP on play by trashing 1 card with X Anti-body and its traits in your hand, draw 2. Again, really important for consistency, and you don't have to worry about bottom decking a potentially good piece since you are drawing 2, which is a pretty nice dig for a free on play. Plus, it puts a body on your board with the search, which makes your opponent have to answer it or keep chipping away at your security. There is an argument to run the old Ryudamon because it's still a fantastic card, and it does help you get more security checks in this deck to contribute to the OTK strategy of the deck. But space is really tight in this list, and I want to prioritize the X Anti-body trait since basically all of our effects need it to be able to be live. So that's why our entire rookie lineup is all X Anti-body Digimon. But if you can make room for it, you could definitely include some Sonorisas, maybe cut down 2 of these guys to 3 or something like that. Next up, we move up to our champions. Grumblemon is simply Black's hybrid for game. Hybrid for game is always clutch in an OTK focused deck when you need that 1 more extra check. After that, we have the old Dorugamon from BT7. If you have something with X Anti-body in play or in this card's sources, in its traits, it gains blocker, which is always nice to potentially stop lethal. Its inheritable gives you plus 1000 DP if you have X Anti-body in its traits. So it's really nice to have a potential blocker there if you need the option, but more importantly, it's an X Anti-body Digimon and it has Dorugamon in its name, which is great for our DexDorugamon. This is the new one introduced here in BT9. The gimmick of X Anti-body Digimon is that they evolve over their counterpart for less or sometimes for free, and in this case, DexDorugamon will evolve over Dorugamon for 0. When digivolving, you may trash 1 card with Dex in its name or X Anti-body in its traits in your hand to gain 1 memory, which when paired with Cool Boy or our other effects, gives you a lot of extra memory per turn to make some explosive plays. Then you have when digivolving, if this Digimon has Dorugamon in its cards or is digivolved from trash, one of your Digimon gets blocker and retaliation until the end of your opponent's next turn. So that is fantastic to have some defensive options to lie back on, and in some decks like Grandis Kawagamon, this completely shuts down the turn potentially if they are not seeing their pieces to suspend your Digimon when swinging. So that's really nice. However, you should not be prioritizing the second effect. Think of it as a bonus because mostly you're going to hide in raising until you can come out and win that same turn after you built your stack. That'll do it for our level 4s. After that, we got our level 5s, or ultimates in the English dub. First up, we got DoruGreymon. It's a really fantastic ultimate in this deck because it does so much for the deck. It is 7000 DP, 3 to digivolve from a level 4, and then when digivolving, you may place 1 black card with X Anti-body and its traits from your hand at the bottom of this Digimon sources to prevent effects from deleting it or reducing its DP until the end of your opponent's next turn. And then inheritable, while this Digimon has X Anti-body and its traits, it gains security attack +1. So this card is amazing because of how much it does. It gives you security attack +1, which is crucial to fueling your OTK strategy, which is a really easy condition to meet of just needing X Anti-body and its traits. You can put multiple underneath it with the other effects in this deck, and then it also gives you really good protection for this format, which is stopping from effects and stopping from DP minusing with how popular yellow is constantly in North America. So this card does a lot in one slot, and that makes it so valuable to the strategy if you have to push out early. After that, we have his X form, which is DexDoruGreymon X. Digivolve 1 from Dorugreymon. When digivolving, you may trash 1 card with Dex in its name or an X Anti-body in its traits from your hand to gain 1 memory. When digivolving, if this Digimon has Dorugreymon in its Digivolution cards, or when digivolving from trash, delete one of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. Second effect is a nice bonus if they have a blocker out or something like that, but you're mainly going to be going into this to get that extra memory and extended plays. It's really nice for consistency like that. Now for the exciting part, our Megas. First up is the new Alphamon from BT9. It is when 3 to Digivolve, 11,000 DP. When Digivolving, place 1 card with the X Anti-body in its traits. When you trash the bottom of this Digimon's Digivolution cards, and then your turn, once per turn, when this Digimon's Digivolution cards increases by effect, de-Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon. This is incredibly great for this deck because you have an easy way, just digivolving, you know, to put more sources underneath it. And then when you do that, it digivolves 1, which stops a lot of decks cold, even like Armor Rush. It loses its Magnamon completely, which would otherwise be kind of annoying. And in other decks, it really slows them down because they have to buy up a whole extra turn of digivolving back up. So this card is fantastic to trigger all of its effects, to put things that it needs underneath it, like Dorugaemon or an Ouryumon if you haven't seen it yet. So Alphamon is amazing for that, and why you usually run it over the old Secret Rare Alphamon from previous sets. That card is really kind of a vanilla without its sources, so Alphamon just actively does so much more for this deck, the new one. After that, we see Ouryumon. When digivolving, place 1 card with X Anti-body in its trait from your hand under this Digimon. If you do, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 7 or less. Once per turn, your turn, when you place a Digimon card under one of your Digimon as a Digivolution card, this Digimon gets plus 2,000 DP and can't be deleted by your opponent's effects until the end of your opponent's next turn. And then it has an inheritable to unsuspend Alphamon once per turn. So this is amazing. Typically, you won't be going into it by digivolving much anymore. You will usually be putting this underneath an Alphamon you already digivolved into with one of your many effects to be able to unsuspend the Alphamon. But it is pretty self-sustaining. If you have to go into it, it's able to do something, you know, instead of just sit around like the old Alphamon, which is why people typically run this at 3 instead of running one of the old one. However, with the old Alphamon's ability to potentially stop lethal, it is not wrong at all to include like 1 copy of it if you're worried about that. It's still a good option. Then we have Alphamon Ouryuken. I realized that I had its alt art in here too for some reason. So you only run 3 of Alphamon Ouryuken. You can play with that ratio. It could be 2 or 3, but it's really good, which is why I prefer 3. It is normally 7 to digivolve into, 16,000 DP naturally, which is insane. Digivolve 3 from Alphamon with Ouryumon in its Digivolution cards. When digivolving, delete all of your opponent's Digimon with the highest play cost. End of your turn, once per turn, you may return up to 7 non-Digia cards with X Anti-body in their traits from this Digimon sources to the bottom of its owner's deck in any order to gain 1 memory for each card returned. So this is just unbelievably, ridiculously powerful. Not only is it 16,000 DP naturally, making your swings so good and safe, you will never have to worry about passing turn again because returning up to 7 is insane. Usually you only really need 2 to 3 sources, so you're usually returning 4 to 5 to the bottom of your deck and gaining back more than enough memory to not just pass turn, but to also keep making more turns and keep extending, you know? So that is amazing. With Ouryumon's unsuspend effect, you go into this, swing, unsuspend. When your Yuji Tamer, which will show off what it does in a second, is on the field, you can even suspend that, put another Ouryumon underneath it, and that way it doesn't miss timing, so you can unsuspend again. Or if you want to put security attack +1, you can do that too. This card is just insane, and it's the main OTK enabler. It's unbelievable. Next up, our option. So space is really tight for options in this deck, so we're not going to have too many of them. We have the one of Kongou. This is basically exclusively for your yellow matchup. It is 2 to play until the next time your opponent's turn ends. Your opponent Digimon with a play cost of 7 or less can't attack. Players and cards can't be added to either player's security stack by your opponent's effect. So this card is very valuable to stop your annoying yellow hybrids from recovering up, and it could also potentially act as a way to prevent lethal if you hit it in security. Depending on your local meta or what you expect to see at regionals and stuff like that, you can play around with the ratios and run this at 2. After that, we have Black Memory Boost because we need consistency in this deck. This card is 3 to play, reveals the top 4 cards, lets you grab 1 black Digimon card, bottom decking the rest, and delay gain 2 memory next turn. The security effect puts it in your battle area. So yeah, just great consistency, lets you pay it back later with 2 memory to help you extend plays. Amazing card, and I think it's a pretty good ratio at 2. If you can find room for it at 3, be my guest. And then only 1 copy of X Anti-body. A lot of other decks are going to be running this at 2 to 3 because it's really important to their strategies. However, in this deck, you don't specifically need the X Anti-body option as often as others. You know, it's not specifically named in these Digimon's effects as often as other decks. You have ways to go and Digivolve up without passing turn. You don't need the pseudo blitz that this option kind of offers. So it's really niche uses in the deck, and why you could only run it at 1, because there are fringe situations where it'll come up and be kind of nice to have, which I think 1 isn't bad, but typically you're not going to be needing this too much. But yeah, it's 0 to play, you put it underneath the Digimon, it helps you Digivolve up into an X Anti-body Digimon when swinging, and in security it adds to hand and potentially acts as a mini Hammer Spark, gaining you 1 memory. And to end our deck profile, we have our Tamers. We have 2 Kota because memory Tamers are nice. He does search your X Antibodies and grab them. And that is always good to see more consistency options. 4 to play, puts itself out of security to make your security more formidable, so it's nice to have just to have that guaranteed 3 memory. After that, we have Yuji. Yuji is only at 2, however, there is absolutely a powerful argument for 3. As I explained, Yuji can put a second Ouryumon underneath your Alphamon when swinging if you time it right, so you could potentially unsuspend enough times for game that way. So if you could find space for it, 3 Yuji is definitely worth recommending, but I think 2 is a nice ratio just to have, just to be able to fit everything in. It is 3 to play. When your Digimon with the X Anti-body and his traits moves from a breeding area to the battle area, gain 1 memory and trigger draw 1, which is going to be really important to gain that extra memory you need for your big play, or just to draw that missing piece potentially. More importantly, it's your turn effect. When your black Digimon with X Anti-body and his traits in its type attacks, you may suspend this Tamer to add 1 card with X Anti-body and its type from your hand under that Digimon as his bottom Digivolution card. So that's basically what's enabling the combo I've been mentioning here throughout the video. It's really good for that. And then we have 4 of Cool Boy to end this. Cool Boy is absolutely insane because this card should not have been only 2 cost. It's so good because of that. It helps you search your X Antibody option and your X Antibody Digimon that have that in their traits. So not only is it, which we have everything in the deck except for Grumblemon. And then your turn, when one of your Digimon Digivolves into a Digimon with the same level with the X Antibody and its traits, you may suspend this Tamer to trigger gain 1 memory and draw 1. Pair this with DexDorugamon or even DexDoruGreymon. This enables such a huge turn extension, getting you so much extra memory, it is ridiculous. So you are able to lethal from a level 4 sometimes even with this deck with all that memory gaining paired together. It's absolutely incredible. So typically you're just going to be hiding and raising, maybe push out if you have enough Cool Boys and you know the memory gain will be enough to go up to your top end, and then have enough sources to not pass turn with Ouryuken. You're going to be swinging with Ouryuken, unsuspend with your Ouryumon. If you have Yuji out, put it underneath again. If not, you're typically going to have a little rookie out to be the last swing, or you're going to have a Tamer and Digivolve with Grumble to be your last swing. Do not be generous with your source trashing. Do not be conservative with this. Do not be conservative with this effect. Do not be afraid. Like, go ahead, trash the full 5, full 7, whatever, because you want extra memory to follow up for a hybrid play, potentially for game, or something else to be able to go for game. Is typically how you're going to be playing this after hiding and raising the whole time. So that is going to be the list and general idea of what it's going to be doing and kind of combos. It has really great matchups into basically everything into the format. The only thing that really keeps pace with it so far, in my opinion, is Metal Garurumon X. I think Grandest Kuwagamon has the potential to, but it is just so bricky, and green is not a good color for draw power. So the only really threat to keep up with this deck, in my opinion, is Metal Garurumon X decks. Other than that, you have a pretty great matchup into everything. It's going to come down to how you pilot it, but that's going to be the list. This is definitely one that is player expressive, and you can change a little bit here and there with the ratios because there is just so much you want to put into this deck. It's kind of hard to really make the right call, you know? It's up to you. Let me know what you're running instead, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, remember to stay hungry until you get a taste of victory.